Most mortgage brokers are making content wrong, not because it looks bad, but because it doesn't convert. And it's not about the views, okay? It's about turning silent lurkers, those ones who will never like, they'll never comment, they'll never share, into actual clients. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the exact content structure I use and I teach that consistently does just that. Stay with me, because at the end of the video, I'll show you a full example of what I post so you can just steal it straight from the page and make it relevant to your audience. Let's dive into it. First part of this we need to look at is the hook, okay? So the hook is one or two sentences at the beginning, depending on the size of the content. If we're looking at something like a LinkedIn post or some sort of short reel, Instagram reel, Facebook reel, something like that, it's going to be 1 to 2 sentences. Now, if it's going to be a YouTube video, this is most likely, to be honest, probably still going to be in that first 1 to 2 sentences. And we'll kind of explain it all in a minute, but it's going to be that. Now, what do you do with this? Well, what you want to do here is you don't necessarily want to ask a question at the beginning of this. That can be a lazy hook, can be done, but a statement is going to be better. So something that polarizes, that catches people's attention, that makes them stop. The majority of this content is going to be interruption based, meaning it's stopping people in the scroll. And so we want to stop them and make them go, oh, how does this relate to me? Or I'm interested in learning more. You don't really want to just start with a question. So, like, how much money can a first time buyer borrow? That's not normally going to be a great hook. With something like that, for example, it would normally be, he couldn't believe how much he could get. That could be like as the first thing, or he couldn't believe he could buy a house. That's a great hook, or an example of a hook. So a hook is the first thing you want to do. From doing the hook, the next step you have then is what I call context. Now, what I mean by context is you need to add context to the hook. Whatever your hook was, that statement, that controversial point that you're getting across, whatever it may be, an opinion that you've made, you want to add some context to why you are saying that. This is probably going to be 1 to 2 sentences, maybe 3 sentences at max, adding the context. The third part you then do is you do this thing which I like to call raise the stakes. Now, raising the stakes is, I think, where this whole thing very much comes together. Now, what raising the stakes is what would happen if you didn't take action on the thing we are talking about. So it'd be the opposite side. What is the negative outcome of not taking action? If you add these together, which is hook, context, and raise the stakes, this actually would be, if you were doing a YouTube video or a podcast, this would be considered what I would call an intro. So that would be the introduction to your content. That's the introduction to the main points of any video or podcast or blog. It's the introduction to the rest of the content. What I love about this specific storytelling structure that helps lurkers turn into customers is that if someone left at the point where we raise the stakes, they would probably know enough to be stuck in their memory. So they're still going to be building brand loyalty. So the next step we go from, once we've done the hook, is we actually move to what I call teaching, or you can call it action steps. So the action steps, 3 to 5 things that they should be doing to understand this specific concept. So this could be anything within mortgages, but you're effectively elaborating on this in more depth. This is going to be bullet point work, and the first hook, context, and stakes, that's very much going to be scripted. So you're getting that right when they come in, and then you're going to more ad-lib through this point. This would normally be 3 bullet points, and again, stick around to the end. I'm going to give you an example of what this would look like for my content, but this is where you would do the meat of the educational content. If you are doing a long form like a live stream or podcast or YouTube video, this is where you would extend this out quite significantly, and this would be a big part of the video. The next thing you have from here is the lesson, okay? So it can be known as the lesson, or it can be known as the takeaway. Now, the reason why you do this is you're driving home at the end. Even though I've done all this information and probably overwhelmed you, this is the one thing I want you to know. I want you to take this one thing and run away with it. That is the number one thing. It's making it very clear for them that you're packaging it and saying, this is all I need you to remember. And then the final bit is what I call a soft CTA, okay, which is going to be a question. Soft CTA is anything that's not saying come and buy my stuff, because obviously if you do a hard CTA, majority of networks are going to ask for you to get that signed off. You don't necessarily need it to be signed off if there is a soft CTA, depending on the network. Some are a bit more strict than others, but you do want to have some form of CTA at the end, and it's a question making people do something, either engage, download, do something. That is the structure. So this structure is, and this is what we say, this exact storytelling structure is hook, context, stakes, teaching / action steps, lesson / takeaway, and soft CTAs, which is a question. So what is an example of how this looks? Well, let's go through one right now. I've got hundreds of these saved into my computer, so on a folder, but let's have a look at one and I will actually read it out for you. So this one is titled "The Fear of Rejection is the Real Sales Killer." So the hook we have, you can see on screen straight away, is the hook is the following thing. It says the hook is, it's not your fees, it's not your pitch, it's your fear of hearing no. That's the hook. The context we have is most brokers aren't losing sales because of price or product. They're losing because they're scared to challenge, to ask, to sell. So that's the context. The stakes: avoiding rejection leads to undercharging, skipping protection, and letting clients run the show. So that already, as you can see here, that would be a solid post on its own. So just on its own, that hook, context, and raise stakes would make complete sense, and that would be like a 15-second video. If you're looking to do that 15-second TikTok, Instagram reel, that's where you'd stop there. But if you're going to elaborate more, you can see here, we've got the action steps. So the action steps for this is, first one is practice saying your fee out loud until it feels normal. The second one is frame protection as standard, not optional. And the third one is, remember, rejection isn't personal, it's professional. That's the action steps. So what I would normally do within these action steps is I would elaborate on those. So if I was doing a podcast like this or a video like this, I would elaborate on these. So I'd have them practice saying it out loud until it feels normal. Then I'd tell some sort of story or anecdote about that and what you could learn from it. Then I'd move to the next one and to the next one. These are very simple. So you're staying on topic, you're staying within the niche, not getting drawn out and talking about something else. You're staying on topic. So we look at the lesson, we've got confidence doesn't come before action, it comes because of it. And then we've got the engagement question, which is that soft CTA, which is, are you letting fear of rejection hold you back from better outcomes? And you can see straight away that would be a small LinkedIn post that would do very well. I do also have catchy quotes and other things, not necessary, but that is a LinkedIn post, but that could also be expanded to any other type of content. Now, why is this type of content useful? Well, what it does is it takes people through a story. The lurkers that are watching your content and reading your content quietly in the background, they are constantly being taken through the journey of how good you are at your job and the knowledge you have. If you don't go through this journey, what's going to happen is you're not actually reinforcing that you're good at the job and building that authority. But if you follow this structure, they are starting to build trust and they're going to know, like, and trust you more, and that is going to convert into more sales over time. Now, I'd recommend you steal this structure, as all my other clients have already. Take it, use it, you can thank me later. Now, if you're feeling overwhelmed and anxious about everything, don't worry, you're not alone. Check out this video here where I talk about exactly how I overcome anxiety and overwhelm in my business right now and when I was a broker. Give it a click.